Hello and welcome to a PHP Basics tutorial on file including and requiring. File including and requiring is a PHP function, or a number of PHP functions actually, that allow you to include the contents of a separate file in the one that you are actually working with at this moment. So in this include.php file, I can include another file in order to work with it more, or to separate it, or so it can be included in this file. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to have this include.php file, and then in a directory inc, so in just a folder called inc, I'm just going to have an included.txt. So if I open that up, you can see that actually I'm going to have an included.php, I suppose. PHP file makes more sense. So I have this included.php file, and it's just in an inc folder in relationship to my basics folder, which is where I'm working out of. So that's just explaining that, but let's get on to it. There are four main ways in order to include a file in PHP, although there's really two main methods, and then they can be altered in a sense. So the first one, probably the most commonly used, is include. So it's include, and then you can have brackets, and inside the brackets you put the file name that you want to include in relation to where you're working right now. So in my case, I'm working in the directory, and in this directory there's the inc folder, inc, and that's / included.php. So this is going to include in this file the included.php file in the inc folder. So if I go back to here and I refresh this, you can see that we get hey 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 output, which is because I'm echoing hey hey hey. If I change in here and I just echo hey and we refresh, we just get hey output. Now include, you can use brackets. You also do not require these parentheses. This works in the exact same way, so I'll just refresh the page to show you, but we still just get hey. Now include includes a file in the page, and if the file does not exist, so I'm going to just change this to included.txt. If the file does not exist, it provides you a warning. It does not provide a fatal error as the other function does. So if you see, we get warning and warning. It just says that it failed to open it, there's no such directory, blah 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 blah. But if we echo out down here hello, and then we go back and refresh, you can still see that the hello is run. So that's the include function, and just remember that it gives you a warning if it is not found, if there's no file by that name. The next function that's used is require. It acts as in the same sense as include, and the fact that it can have brackets, but it does not need them. So I'm going to change this back, and we're going to refresh, and you can see, I'm going to delete down here, or actually I'll just comment that out because we'll come back to that. So we'll refresh, and you see that we get hey, and if we change this in any way, then it will still output the new content. The difference between include and require is that require requires the file to be included in order for the page to to run. So, for instance, if we change this name again to .txt and we delete this, you remember when we had include, this ran because it just gave us a warning. It only tried to include. When that failed, it continued on with the page. With require, if the file's not found, it prevents it causes a fatal error, which prevents the rest of the page from running. So you'll see that we get warning, it does not think, or it has not found, it's failed to open, and then you get a fatal error. It has failed to include or to require it, which means that this hello has not been run. So that's require in comparison to include. Now, each of these files has a separate or a slightly altered version of it, where you can specify to require it once, which is just used _once. And what this means is that if you've tried to include or require the file a second time on the page, then it will only load it once. Because, for instance, if I just delete this once for a second and bring that line down, just duplicate it, then you can see that we're going to get the output twice. You might not want that, and so if we change this to require once and require once, then we refresh, you see we only get it output once. So include once is the fourth way, and again it acts in the exact same manner, only it does not provide a fatal error. It only tries to include. If it can't include, then it just won't run, or it just will continue running on with the rest of the page. In my opinion, the include once and the require once are both kind of pointless, as you are better off to make sure that in your code that you are programming you only include it once, unless you want it multiple times. But you're better off to just try and make sure that your code is written well enough that you only need it once. So those are the 4 ways to include files. Now, I'm just going to explain that including files is very helpful when you're trying to separate your logic from your content output. If you've seen some of my other tutorials, you'll see that I use a folder structure in which I have a core folder which has a library file, and this library file includes all of the backend files that have my functions defined in them. So, and then this file is included on each of my pages, so that I don't have to include multiple files on each page. So in this way, it really helps to make your code understandable, to make your code better practice than to have everything jumbled up. But and it's just good practice to use. Include and require both pretty self-explanatory. It will include it in it, or it will require the file in it, and yeah, when you get a hang of it, it's really not very complicated at all. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send me a message or leave them in the comments below. Check out my other videos, and thanks for watching.